Hey guys, it's Spacey Sims, and we are back with more Virche Evermore, continuing, the common route, but we were about to see Cyan! Yay! I mean, we've met him technically before. We got to see him. She hasn't met him, so this is gonna be a first. So, anyway, Toad led us through the area without informing us of our destination. Perhaps he had grown tired of explaining things as he pushed on ahead of the pack. Okay, simmer down, Bird. Bird's with me. And this place still feels like a castle. I wonder what those floating light pictures hanging in the air are. That's our information control system. In addition to paperwork, we also have a state-of-the-art system for communicating information of all sorts. I looked closely at them as he spoke. There were pea-sized devices on the floor below them that seemed to be projecting the images into the air. Wow. That's amazing. It's as though we stepped into another world through the gate. Yeah, it's so pretty, like magic. Wasn't technology like this used in Cheetahs too, Mathis? No, not at all. The cars and transmitters are as advanced as we have there. And it's natural that the latest in technology is restricted to Cernival. Even if the technology made its way to us, we wouldn't have the know-how to use it. If the residents of Cheetahs didn't have it, Cohen certainly wouldn't know about it. Of course, there were a few facilities the Institute supported, such as orphanages, but even then they were few and far between. I only recently saw a transmitter for the first time when Eve was using it. Eve said himself that he didn't know how to use one before. That's just the tip of the iceberg. We got loads and loads of advanced tech at the Institute. By the way, that projection is a simple navigational tool for guests, so there's no restriction on who can use them. If you ever get lost, simply talk to the display and it'll offer the help you need. I suppose it's not uncommon for guests who haven't been here before to lose their way. Once I thought of it that way, the system felt much more reliable. But... don't you dare touch the emergency icon displayed in the bottom right corner. Pressing that'll activate the emergency barrier to prevent the spread of fire, completely sealing off the area. Okay. Press the thing in the bottom to seal off areas at some point during this game. Again, I feel like this is information we're gonna use later. Understood. We'll be careful. I shuddered to think of what would happen if I accidentally touched it. Probably be executed. I mean, whatevs. Ooh, look at all the neat, light and all, it is, it's a castle, but we put, super future tech in here. Love it. Now that I think about it, I'm surprised there isn't a single reliver in your group. I was wondering why everyone looked so surprised about what we had at the facility. Oh, at the faculty. No, he said facility, sorry. Just based on looks, I believe you're over 20 already. Yeah. Isn't the curse already eating away at you? You really should get yourself backed up as soon as possible. Yeah, when I feel like it. In your case, you became a reliver at a pretty young age, didn't you? Right, I suppose it's only obvious from the design on my body. We have around 500 scientists and researchers working here. Every one of them relivers. So, it's just because you look a little younger than me. Yeah, I may be cute, but I'm actually an old man inside. I love it. I became a reliver when I was 15 for personal reasons. Since then, my appearance hasn't changed. See, that's the only thing. Could you imagine? You have to live in your 15-year-old body forever, no matter how old you are. I mean, sure. You think about it like, oh, God, I would look... everybody wants to look... Yeah, I don't want to be 15 again. I don't want to be stuck in that forever. You know what I mean? Sure, in this you really only get, your 20-some-odd-year-old body or, less, but, okay. Still don't think I really want to be in my 20-something body, but, again, you could be like, could you just tweak it a little? Fine. I'd rather be in my 20 or 21-year-old body than my 15-year-old. Fuck, that sucks. I'm gonna be, teenager forever. Ugh. You know? I really don't look like a researcher without my lab coat, do I? If I could age in appearance, maybe it'd lend me a certain respectability. So a reliver's appearance can never change? Correct! A reliver is fixed to the age of their data at the time of backup, so they won't age or mature beyond that. That means their mental age is often limited accordingly. Unfortunately, not many are able to become young researchers like me. It's interesting to say, like, your mental capacity never changes, because that's not really true. Like, I mean, I get it. If your brain stops developing at a certain point, then, like, if you died at 15 and then you reborn, like, yeah, you're always, but, like, I still feel like that's really odd because, okay, yes, you at 15 is totally different than you at, like, 23. All right, your brain's still developing, things are changing, like, whatever. So, if you backed yourself up and then came back as a reliver at 15, you would still, though, over the next 23 years, you'd think you'd still develop. You know what I mean? Because he's like, I'm an old man in this body. Well, not if you're just now saying contradictory to what you said, being an old man in that body. You're not really, because your brain's always only ever 15. That makes no sense. Like, yeah, I mean, I guess in a way, your brain's never going to be like an old person. Well, now I'm riddled with Alzheimer's and whatever, because your brain physically isn't going to age past that, but your mental capacity and the things you learn are still going to change. So, like, I mean, I guess in his sense, it's like, I'm going to be stuck in puberty fucking forever. Like, I'm stuck with the raging hormones of a 15-year-old, even though technically my mind has been around the block several times. And, like, you know, I mean, like, your knowledge can progress past 15. I guess it's the physical limit. I don't know. Anyway. Look, I don't know enough sciencey stuff in real world to, like, be able to question that, aside from questioning it and going, that doesn't make that much sense. Like, you can still learn and grow. You know what I mean? And there are 15-year-olds who are smarter than 30-year-olds. So, like, your age really doesn't have anything to do with the amount of knowledge in your head and experience. And the more you experience in life, however many times you've lived. So technically, he's lived before. He's got more experience and more life experience, world experience, and everything than we do, even though we're technically older than him, because his mind is technically older than us. All of his memories make up that intelligence, you know? But I guess it's the more like the physical aspect of your brain. Like, my brain is 15, so, like, think about the way you were at 15. Like, just the natural, like, the normal, like, or, like, when you're dealing with hormones and changes and all that physical aspect of your brain isn't changing. So, like, you know what I mean? I guess it's a weird place to be, but anyway. What Dawood said was the same as the lessons I learned as a child. A young male reliver who works as the deputy director at the institute. That's adorable. Mother hadn't changed in appearance in all these years, and neither had her personality. But again, your personality can change over time with your life experience. It has nothing to do with your physical body. If you put my brain in a different body, my personality would still be me, and it's not tied to my physical being. And my personality right now is definitely different, has adapted since I was 15. You know what I mean? Like, your life experiences change. Like, think about people who are, you were always such a happy child, and now you're just a sad, depressed person because of all the tragedy in your life. That changes your personality and your perception. So, like, I know we're not, this is the Atome Kitten being like, don't get to think about it too much because it doesn't make sense, because this makes no sense. Your personality would changes over time. Just naturally as a natural human being, not counting this. And the more times you would go through life, living another 20 some odd years, your personality is gonna fucking change. You know what I mean? So that's fucking weird. If I recall correctly, Hugo also referred to himself as old. But I couldn't see any difference between the way he bantered with Adolphe and Eve and the way they did with him. I mean, Yeah, I mean, I could see your personality being similar because, like, it's not guaranteed that you start off your life as a 10-year-old and you're happy and giggly and having a great time, and then you're 80 and you're crotchety and old and grouchy. You know, you don't have to be that way. You could still be giggly and goofy when you're 80. So, yeah, your personality doesn't have to change, but saying it doesn't at all is really not any basis in reality. Personalities do change, and this Hugo could be drastically different than 5 Hugos ago, or 5 Hugos from now could be a different person. Like, your life experience is going to change you, you know? And it may be gradual, but it's still weird to say that your personality never changes, because absolutely does. I mean, just think of it. One day you're happy, you're in a good mood, and the next day, especially if you have like any kind of depression or anything like that, like one day you could be happy and the next day you're miserable. Your personality kind of changed. Like your mood and those things changes. But I guess if you suffered from a mental illness, when you come back as a reliver, you're still going to have that. So, well, anyway, whatever. It's just weird. Which was why, although we had heard about what it meant to be old from stories of faraway places, we never witnessed anything like it in our Pashel. If not for the stories, it would have been impossible to imagine. The elderly lived hidden all around us. Relivers who called themselves old were aged only in their memories, the collection of which would continue to grow indefinitely. I mean, okay, so I guess that's the point they're trying to make. Like, okay, like, doubt. It's easier, I guess, for the concept of the game to be like, your personality doesn't really change. So, like, he was always a little spunky and peppy and goofy, like the way he is. That's the way he's always been, as opposed to, like, oh, yeah, no, my last life, I was like, I've gotten over being a grouchy. So, if you're a grouchy bitch, you're probably always going to be a grouchy bitch. Just because then you don't have to think about, like, if we're going through the game, and you're not going through the game from, like, this is my first life to this is my 10th time through, where that would make a difference. If anyone comes back, like, say, Capucine, right? He's kind of a snobby bitch, right? All of a sudden, he comes back as a reliver. His personality is not going to magically change overnight. But if we were playing this game with the, like, oh yeah, we keep reliving, and now it's been 10 cycles, it's been like 200 fucking years since I was actually born to now, yeah, then people's personalities should have changed. But, like, there's really no reason to kind of set that precedent up. Like, we're just going to say for the sake of this that the personalities don't change this way. You're not wondering why after 200 years a person didn't change at all. Because we're not getting there, probably. I'm assuming. You know what I mean? So, whatever. Anyway. Relivers who call themselves old were aged only in their memories, the collection of which would continue to grow indefinitely. And your memories and your intelligence changes who you are. Like, if you got dumber, you're going to be a different person than if you got smarter. You know? Think of you on a sliding scale. You on one end being stupid is completely different than you on the other end being smart. Like, Reliver, too. Their appearance is genetically locked based on the initial backup from when they first became relivers. Once set, their appearance will never change, even if they die and revive as a reliver again. Although, why did... I mean, I guess Dahu could have died accidentally at 15 or... No, the disease was, like... The curse was getting to me, so I did it. But, like, why did you choose 15? Why did you choose that? It was like, well, it wasn't a choice. It was this or die. You know. We don't know. He could have had, like, because they say roughly at 20, but that doesn't mean there aren't people that die earlier and stuff like that. So he could have just been sick earlier. We continued our conversation, passing by a number of staff as we made our way deeper into the facility. And we're here. I'm sorry for having you walk so far. For security reasons, the researchers' private quarters are located deep inside a less frequented part of the facility. It's actually quite a chore inviting guests and preparing food and drinks. From the sound of it, Dahoud also had a room here for himself. He put his hand on the heavy-looking door. Zion, your guests are here. One of them's a cute girl. I was like, we're going into Zion's bedroom. Or his living quarters. It could be his apartment, but... He pushed the door wide open. Oh my god, are we gonna get a CG of him the first time we meet him? Oh my god, I love it. This is exactly what you expect. I love his room. There's just piles of books and fucking science shit just kind of haphazardly everywhere. It's a little bit of a mess. A wrinkled lab coat lazily hung on a nearby sofa. It's actually there in the background. On the floor were vials filled with liquid for what I assumed were experiments. You know, he just kind of sits on the floor, like, sprawled out, laying there, like, whatever. I noticed stacks of documents and thick books throughout the room. They were scattered across the floor like toys from a toy box. A visibly large fluff of dust floated past my eyes as I looked around, stunned by the mess. He ain't got time to clean. I want to clean this place. Oh, he might enjoy that. Actually, he'd probably slap you and be like, don't touch my shit. My muscles tightened from having to suppress the urge. I knew what I was thinking was out of place, considering the situation. The majority of things in the room look like they shouldn't be touched for anything outside of their specific purposes. Cyan, I can't believe you got the place this dirty again. Where's your sense of pride? How many times have I told you to clean up a little bit before the guests arrived? I want to just, in my head, till they tell me otherwise, Dahoud has been around longer than Cyan. Although, maybe not. You know what I mean? It would just be funny if Dahoud's like, I have gone through this 7 times. He's only gone through like 5. It would just be fucking funny. Dahoud was directing his complaints toward the center of the room, despite no one being around. Suddenly, a large heap of towels and lab coats stirred, falling away piece by piece to reveal... What is he doing in this... Wait. It's like he's talking to the center of the room and no one's there, and you're like, you know he is, but I'm curious. A large heap of towels and lab coats stirred. Was he just sleeping in a pile of laundry? What is this man doing? Oh, we do get a CG. Oh, of course. I mean, I've seen this one before, but of course it's the, like, this is the one that's in the guide when you scroll through, like, this is the God Beyonce, like, it's sexy as shit. Stop it. Like, they did this on purpose. Just put glasses on this motherfucker and I'm sold. A strange man. A strange man. I mean, yeah. He emerged from the pile of clothes with a grumpy look on his face. His clothes hung from him in a similarly haphazard way. Half his shirt is untucked. It would make sense that this room was his domain, but despite his disheveled appearance, he didn't look like a lazy person at all. Dahoud, what right do you have to interrupt my precious sleep? Do you recall that I haven't slept for 16 days? Oh, I see. This is sabotage. He glared at Dahoud with exhausted eyes. All right, go and arrange for your backup now so that I can kill you. And there are 113 people on the wait list, but I'll make sure you're revived first. But you're going to come back as a humanoid with 4 arms. What say you? Perhaps that would make you more efficient in your work. Then you should try it yourself first. And speaking of sabotage, may I remind you that you were the one who told me to bring them here, Cyan? Do you remember? Oh, don't you remember? Ah, yes. That is correct. I recall telling you early this morning to bring Karun here. I underestimated the effects of sleep deprivation on short-term memory. I should replace my body and brain soon. The man cracked his knuckles and stretched as he slowly rose to his feet. He's a mess and I love him. I love him so much. It's been a few years since I've had guests from outside the facility. And I just love the fact that he's a brilliant fucking but like he really is a haphazard man. Like, look, I mean, we saw his clothes all disheveled and shit before, but it was like, is this a choice? No. It's not a choice. His clothes are just half off all the time because he doesn't even know. I love it. I don't expect to be entertained. I have no interests apart from my research. He massaged his neck, which was covered in a flower design, looking at us with his beautiful multicolored eyes. He still hadn't introduced himself, but everyone in the country old enough to speak knew who he was. I'm sorry you had to see something so shameful. Despite his slovenly appearance, he is the director of the Institute, Cyan Brophies, who requested your presence. He's the creator of Reliver technology and the oldest reliver in existence. He's the oldest reliver in existence. Alright, that's interesting facts right there. Alright, so Daoud isn't older. I was like, I might not be older than you, but I feel like I have to be responsible for you, basically, is what this comes down to. Oldest reliver in existence. I feel like that's gonna come up. Not just because he's been around for, but that's not just like a little tidbit like, oh, he likes cats or his favorite food or whatever. That's pertinent. That's gonna come back as pertinent to the story somehow. A genius scientist and our savior. Daoud brought in some foldable chairs from another room for us to use. Oh, you know what's so funny? I didn't realize, yes, his reliver mark is on his neck. Oh, nice. Also, he has it as a symbol on his wall. I mean, I could see it on the wall behind, and I was like, I wonder if that's his, like, insignia, you know what I mean? So he's got it on him and on the wall, like... That's my family crest, basically. We were unable to open our mouths or move in front of the man who was sitting idly on the sofa in front of us. I can tell you guys are all pretty nervous. Did you expect anything different? Well said. I can't stop my hands from shaking. Adolphe, Eve, and I whispered to each other. None of us dared to say a thing. Even the possibility in our minds that we might be executed for any rudeness. Cyan Brophies. I like how he's just staring at us like he's contemplating us right now. We're bugs in his lab jar, and it's like, I'm here for it. Listen, I'd let him dissect me, whatever. Director of a National Research Institute. 60 years ago. I mean, that's only a couple of lifetimes. He developed and established Reliver technology to save the people living here. Could have been during your first life. So you could be on your fourth. He wasn't only the father of Reliver technology, but also a talented scientist and the savior of this country. His father and grandfather had also worked to find a way to extend the people's lifespan. And then we have this CG. Jesus. Like, can we get, like, this is a little slutty. This is a sexy little CG. Look at this. I feel like we're doing something inappropriate right now, aside from looking at his neck tattoo. Good God. Damn. A little spicy. They researched a system that would allow the creation of clones and the transfer of memories and personalities. Their work was considered far-fetched by other scientists and readily dismissed. After his father's death, Cyan took over and managed to achieve concrete results. And there you go. See, I was able to live past my 23rd year. In a matter of months, he transformed his father's theories into reality. He experimented on his own body and became the first and oldest reliver to prove that he could overcome the curse. And that's you're a researcher, and I feel like that's like borderline, like the crazy side of being a researcher is like, I experimented on myself. Like, or you're really into this. With his brain and the reliver technology he created. With his brain and the reliver technology he created. That's how I should have read that. He became the people's only lifeline to escape death. Yeah, but like, I'm still here, motherfucker. I'm coming for. Oh wait, that's not what you meant. His accomplishment earned him the trust of the royal family and the rest of Arpachel. In fact, the facility was pretty much created just for him and his continuing research. Okay, no, actually, that's true. I was like, he's only lived a couple of lifetimes, but not really. I mean, he could have come back 15, 20 times, because he could have been like, oh, this body's getting achy, I've had it for 3 weeks, let me get a new one. Like, you know what I mean? I've had this body for 4 or 5 years. It's worn in now, I'm getting a new one. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean he has to live 20 years until he's like, oh, the sickness, nope. He could be getting a new body every few years. Like, some people like, it's been 2 years, it's time for a new car. You know what I mean? He's changing bodies like most people change underwear, jeez. In fact, the facility was pretty much created just for him and his continuing research. The Arpichel royal family were known to look down on the common people and live without any regard for their well-being. He was the only one they would never cross, bending over backwards to satisfy his will. So again, God/Beyonce. I get it. I get where we're going with that, Atome Kitten. I wasn't surprised. After all, even if they were the royal family, he could simply withhold his ability to revive them as relivers. I like the fact that he's also controlling this shit. Music is very loud. I did turn it up a little because I didn't think it was, in the other parts when I did it, even the very intense music, I was like, it's not too overbearing. I could, like, turn it up just a teeny bit. So hopefully we'll see if this is, like, really bad or if I need to turn it back. Like, it's really hard to balance because for me, when I listen to the part that I record, it sounds a little loud, but then when you process it, it kind of tones down the music a little. So it's like, you know, I don't know. Anyway, he could not revive him, right? Okay. That would mean that no one would be able to escape the curse of death. In other words, he's basically, I mean, he controls everything. He's the true ruler and sole power governing this country. Hell yeah! Here for this. Ian Brophies, a talented scientist and the oldest reliver who developed reliver technology 60 years ago. He's the director of the institute and the de facto ruler of this country. And, like, we finally get, like, a sexy older man. Sure, he's in, like, a 20-something body, but he's 60 plus, if you think about it. Like, 60 years ago he did this, so he's, like, probably, like, pushing 80 almost. I'm just saying. Because he was probably, like, however old he is when he backed up his body, that would have been, like, if he's, like, 20, 21, that's when he backed up his body. So then 60 years ago, he's now 80. So, like, he really, okay, yeah, he's a grandpa. Listen! The game's like, you know, people keep saying they want older love interest. Well, here we go. He's, like, 80. But he looks 20. It's like, I don't know if that counts. I don't think I really want 80-year-old love interest. Okay, we've had games where you have a 40-year-old love interest, but the difference is we're 18 and they're like 40-something and they look like, but okay. I mean, I guess this is no different except for the fact that, like, you know, but they're trying to do the personality doesn't change, see, so he's still basically 20. Even though, like, not really. It could get weird if you delve into it too much, but this is the only time the big age difference isn't going to bother me. Because I'm like, yeah, he might be like 80, but he looks 20, so I'm like, whatever, it's the same difference. Like, but if we was really 80, that'd be weird. Anyway. This was the same man we read about in our history books growing up, and you're like, and I never expected him to be so hot. It was only natural that would be tense in front of such a legendary figure. Tense and slightly turned on. Even Adolphe were cautiously looking at the person in front of us. Mathis was visibly shaking, afraid to somehow get on his wrong side, especially because, one, we don't have backups, but two, even if we did, he could deny us the use of our backups, which is kind of fucked up. Monsieur Brophies observed our reactions one by one, then slowly crossed his legs. And now then, you're the representatives of Karun and the Corps, correct? Yes. Yeah. And the pale one over there. My name is Mathis Claude. He's the heir of the Claude family that's funded a great deal of our research. I brought him along since I heard he was involved in the incident. Claude? Oh, you mean the bloodline of bookworms. Still, Mathis was it? I wasn't aware that you existed. Well, you can see him now in the flesh.
I'm ashamed to admit it, but until recently, I rarely ever left the estate. I didn't attend many events or parties, so I'm not surprised that some are unaware of my existence.
Come now, there's nothing to be ashamed of. If anything, one of us should be ashamed for saying such a rude thing. I like he's like, one of us. Eyes staring at Cyan. Cyan, please remember our most important clients and supporters. I may be the deputy director, but I really don't want to be your shield for handling all the correspondence with outsiders.
Denied. Remembering people's names won't help me with my research.
Deputy director? So Dahoud is a high-ranking officer. He's adorable. His youthful looks were still deceiving me, despite my knowing that he was much older.
And there's this girl.
Our eyes suddenly met, and I fainted because he's hot. I'm not gonna lie, he's might be my favorite. He's, to me, like, Adolphe's really hot too, but Cyan is like, I don't know. You, just slap on glasses, that's all I need, and I'm sold 100%. I'm like at 98, you know. Monsieur Brophy stared for a second, and looked away uninterestedly. Oh! You just looked away like I don't even matter, and that... Okay, I'm at 100% now. You don't need glasses. You're cold and aloof. Now then, let me go get some tea and snacks for our guests. I'll leave the rest of you young ones and our not-so-young one. Dahoud, our only source of brightness, left the room. Upon the sound of the door closing, Monsieur Brofis began to speak.
The leaders of Karun and the Corps. The reason I summoned you here was to place a work order for a task requiring special attention. I shouldn't have read that in one breath. I don't like beating around the bush, so let me put it frankly.
Monsieur Brofis grabbed a wrinkled newspaper and tossed it at our feet. At first glance, it was clear that this was a newspaper from a few days ago. The headline stated that I was the likely culprit of the mass murder in the alley. He's like, and this girl, and we're like, I'm probably not in the newspaper. The reason he was showing us was...
The bodies from that incident are currently buried at a graveyard in Coen.
He knows about it. They buried some of the they took some of the bodies and buried them. He's like, I know what you did. I'm not stupid. You think I'm stupid? I'm like fucking 80, bitches.
I want you to dig up the bodies and bring them here.
An unsettling chill replaced the tension we felt a few moments ago. I'm gonna guess... Oreo. Okay, I'm putting air quotes around that because Lucas. Now, I don't think they're gonna like that. Him and Capucine, I don't think they're gonna like it. How does he know about the bodies that were buried by the hospital? Again, he's fucking God. He knows everything. He's also the oldest person alive, technically. No, worse than that. He wants us to dig up their graves and bring in the bodies. But why? He looked on with deathly calm, continuing in a flat tone.
I suppose I should explain further, since I don't want assumptions to be made. I have no interest whatsoever in this Boreaux character. All I want are the bodies of those who were suspected to have clawed away at their own chests.
It's funny, because, like, the first time we saw him, I didn't realize, like, I just figured it was, I didn't notice the tattoo necessarily, because of the way the shadows and everything are. I didn't analyze and look at him that closely. So he knows about the autopsy results. I am disappointed it's not a tramp stamp. Just to be fair. I am. I know. But the whole neck tattoo thing where it's really noticeable, and I mean, that's kind of hot. I'm not gonna lie. The tramp stamp would have been great, though. Would have been funny. But I guess it makes sense for Cyan to be like, I was the first reliver. I'm the oldest person in this fucking country, and, like, my tattoo is right there, right on his neck, right loud and like in your face, kind of like. So, I mean, I guess that makes sense. But still, tramp stamp's funny just for him. You know what I mean? It's just because I give him this voice. This voice is just makes it funnier. But anyway, so he knows about the autopsy results.
I have my connections.
I love the little, like, sus bitch look on his face right now. He's like, I do. Like, it's so good. I love it. Look at you. Look at you too. Honestly, you know what? It's so funny. Because Adolphe is, like, part of the core, so you think he's like, okay, But like, Cyan looks like thicker. You know what I mean? You got more stockiness to like. Adolphe's so lanky. Like, look at his tiny little ass hips, his tiny little legs. Like, Cyan's got some more thick, got some more muscle. Like, not to say that Adolphe can't kick ass. Obviously, we know he can, but I'm just saying. You would have expected Cyan to be the twinkiest one, and yet, nope. Actually, like, you might be the thickest one. Still lanky as fuck, though. I mean, come on, but. Hearing a response to his mumbling, Adolphe's expression filled with alarm. He has good ears, or perhaps he already knew beforehand what Adolphe was going to say. Monsieur Brophy's response was instant. I mean, the room's not that big. I understand your work order. May I ask why? Is there a particular reason you require those bodies?
To kill time.
Time froze around us. He's like, I'm bored.
To kill time? I doubt I need to explain this, but my research involves the use of reliver technology to create clones for after death. But sometimes I work on other ideas for a change of pace.
It seemed to be just as he said. He's like, because here's the thing. You researched and you made reliver technology, so obviously you're kind of keeping up, making sure it stays with the times, adjusting things as needed, making things better, enhancing things. But you created this magical piece of technology from nothing. And sure, keeping it up to speed and making improvements and stuff and whatever is great and all, but that's going to get boring because you're like, yeah, I'm just maintaining this existing scientific discovery. But you've got other researchers that can handle that. His brain is over here like, I am so bored. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like say building Lego is your hobby, right? You're like, you love building your things and like, yeah, now you got your Lego freaking Starship Enterprise. They don't make one, but I still just trying to will it into existence, okay? Because that's the one I want, okay? So whatever, you make your Millennium Falcon, because sure, they have Star Wars ones, but not Star Trek. What the fuck? Not get into that. Okay, so you take all this time, you spend all this money, you build it, and you're like, yeah. And now all you have to do is like dust it. And everyone, oh shit, a piece fell off. Okay, put that back together. You dust it, maybe you move it around. Like, that's maintaining it. It's not as fun as building it, right? So yeah, you're maintaining it and like, making sure it stays nice. The piece doesn't fall off here and there, or like, whatever. It stays clean. But like, you want to actually get another Lego set and build it. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, that's what he wants. He's like, bring me the bodies because I need shit to experiment with. I got ideas, motherfucker. I'm going through withdrawals. I mean, I'm sure he does other stuff, but like, this is like something like, ooh, challenge, sparking something, probably. Anyway, it seemed to be just as he said.
Well, in short, I want to perform my own autopsies and determine the cause of death myself.
Perform his own autopsies? Yet the man's bored, I can understand. So he wanted us to act as grave robbers just to get bodies for him to dissect? That was how it sounded to me. It sounds crazy. It's not for, we need to figure out what's going on. It's not the investigation. He's like, I'm bored. Like, basically. We were all unable to say anything in response to his work order, which showed a blatant lack of respect to the deceased. But it's one of those you're like, yeah, no. We can't really say no, though, can we? But like, fuck. Like, can't say no to God. That said, considering his position in society, we could hardly voice our disapproval. Exactly. I love it. I love this difficult position we're in here. And just to confirm, is this an official order to the Corps?
No, it's a work order for Karoon. I simply needed you to be here to bear witness to the signing of our contract. I wouldn't want your group to inadvertently assume he's robbing graves when he's fulfilling a work order from me. Despite Monsieur Brophy's calm demeanor, I was thinking his claim, and then I was like, oh no, we're talking about his calm demeanor, and like, that just got fucked up in my brain. I could tell he was holding back a chuckle, perhaps imagining the misunderstanding. Yeah, he's having fun with this. You say that as though we've agreed to this work order. If you don't, you will be the ones with a problem.
Threats. Oh, I love it when they threaten me. Seriously, put glasses on this motherfucker. Huh? By that, to be fair, even if, like, he ever needed glasses, you know damn well when he brought himself back, he'd be like, I fixed my own eye problem. Because, like, why would I come back to life in a body with weak ass eyesight? You know what I mean? So if he was going to wear glasses, they're like, I really almost wish they had him in glasses every once in a while, like one sprite, one scene where we're like, why are you wearing glasses? He's like,
I do it for the fashion sense because it looks great. I look good in them, don't you think? I don't need them. They're just for fashion.
you know what I mean? He seems like the type. Because you know he would have fixed his eyesight. He wouldn't need the glasses. He would just be like, I just look good in them. I'm using them as an accessory. Like earrings. Adolphine frowned immediately, seeming to know what was being implied. Monsieur Brofes continued.
You two over there. I want you to put your common sense aside for a moment and think about it. Of the issues you're trying to resolve, which is of higher priority? Well, of course, going after Borio and...
Did I not click? I guess I didn't. That's right. We've been putting aside the other unknown deaths. We only knew the autopsy results of the suicides because Lucas asked Dr. Campesine to check them. And that was because they were admitted to the hospital with injuries from Borio. Okay, so now what we're saying is these people... Okay, so Borio went after killing people, but that was it's two separate things. Because that's what I was wondering in the scene we saw in the last part. Borio killed people. I'm like, what about the clawing? That was a whole separate... It's like it was just two different moments that overlapped. You know what I mean? When we don't have any way of investigating the other deaths at present.
We're on a standstill if the Royal Guard can't or won't investigate the bodies they took.
To be honest, your work order... No, your support is what we in the Corps need.
Indeed. I like people who are quick to understand things. Well, I can't say I'm wholeheartedly in favor of accepting this work order. Which means you'll accept it, even if you're not wholeheartedly in favor of it.
He was like, ugh, I love it. He wanted to refuse as founder of Karun, but he couldn't as a member of the Corps. I'm sorry, buddy. I don't want you rubbing against my headset because I feel like you're going to bite it. I'm sorry. I know. But you like to bite my work headset, and this one's the work one's fine. That's one thing. I was like, whatever. It was given to us for freebies. But this I paid a lot of money for. I don't want you biting it. He's like sitting there and he was snuggling, but he kept rubbing up against it. And I don't know if he was just itching himself, but like sometimes he'll do that and he'll chew, and I don't want him chewing on the like foamy ear pads. You know what I mean? So anyway, he wanted to refuse as founder of Karun, but he couldn't as a member of the Corps. Ah, Slan knows what he. Seeing Eve contemplate his predicament, Monsieur Brofes let out a wide grin. What ended up breaking the long silence was doubt.
Excuse me, Lord Brofes. If I may, would it be possible for us to hear more details in relation to the proposed work order?
Mathis's hand trembled as he spoke.
Oh.
Monsieur Brofes' eyes narrowed at the unexpected interjection. Mathis glanced at us quickly, as if asking us to let him handle the situation.
I don't mind explaining, but do away with the Lord. Just call me Scion. I'm sick of hearing that title from those royal fools trying to get on my good side. Right. Then if I may, Scion, how much of the body will be dissected for your investigation?
So, will the bodies be returned to their families?
100%, and no.
He replied without hesitation.
Which means dissecting them entirely, not only their chests, or rather, reducing the bodies to lumps of flesh. Why perform further autopsies when the cause of death was already determined? I'm interested in what motivated the suicides and how they were made possible. Perhaps from some irregularity in the brain, perhaps triggered by some disease. Drugs may have led to their insanity. In any case, what happened was very rare. I cannot promise to return the bodies in their original form.
Mathis grabbed his chest with his frail hand.
I Why would you do that to the bodies?
It was clear that what the bodies had in store for them could be described as nothing less than carnage. I mean, we're looking at it as like these were people and like have some respect for them, and Cyan's like, a scientist. My name's Scientist. Cyan. I had a sim that was named Scientist. Which is fucking funny because he was a scientist. It was listen. It was an alien. I did a history challenge where you start like prehistoric times and stuff like that. So he was an alien that like was watching humans, and then like his ship crash landed, and then they found him, and he was trying to explain to them that he's a scientist, so they just called him Scientist. They thought that was his name, because we're prehistoric people. So anyway, so I kind of funny that he's like his name's Cyan and he's a scientist, and it's kind of very similar, and it's just pretty funny to me. Anyway, but yeah, he gives no fucks. He's like, yeah, whatever, they're dead. Doesn't matter anymore. Especially when you're a reliver, and we already know that there's that discrepancy with like, relivers have no respect for their own bodies, or their thought process on their lives and deaths are completely different than the people who like aren't ever going to come back, or haven't gone through that. You know what I mean? So there's this discrepancy of thought. And it's actually kind of like the discrepancies of thought between different religions and stuff like that. So it's like, you can kind of see the parallels, like in modern society compared to this fantastical society. But also then you have that layer of like, you've got like Death over here who's like, hey, I came up from hell and what's up? Watchman of Death, taking bodies back. And then you've got Lucas who's like a little god boy, but then probably Boreal killing people for whatever reason. And you've got the people who are like, being relivers is against God. So you've got the whole religious kind of aspect to it. But then there's also that differentiation between the way people who are relivers think about life and death, and then the way natural humans who live and die as humans think about death and life and everything. So it's like you got all these little divides, which is kind of interesting. And of course, Cyan is founded this technology, so he's going to think even differently than the other people who were completely indifferent to their lives and deaths, because whatever, I got a body and backup. You know what I mean? He's like even less like emotional or connected to it. So of course, like people are, he's like, yeah, whatever, but they're gone. So like, let me hack them apart, figure out some shit, learn things. You know what I mean? So. Still, it didn't seem to bother Cyan. Instead, I mean, of course it didn't. Was my guy by accident.
Doesn't matter. A body's merely a vessel that houses a brain and a heart.
See, what did I tell you? He's like totally like factual and like unemotional about it.
Without those organs functioning, bodies are simply carcasses, no different from the expired clone bodies for relivers. Furthermore, if drugs or disease were involved, it becomes a national matter. Performing thorough autopsies is critical.
See, you got now this. It could become a national matter. It could be a huge issue. Performing autopsies is critical to understanding why this is happening, so we can get to the bottom of it and prevent it. That is, that's a very logical, but also going to get anybody. So think about it. Anytime there's, oh my God, there's like a mass illness or something, doing something like that, you're like, oh my God, you can't desecrate bodies. There's going to be somebody's body that you can take apart, donate to science, like whatever, because on a national scale, yeah, you're gone and everything. Your body could be used for science in order to figure it out to save other people from dying. And so he's using that logic where they're going to go, and kind of not cater. What's the word I'm looking? Well, you know what I mean. Pander to their goodwill. Like, see, other people could die if we don't figure this out. Even though he's over there like, I just want to chop some shit up. I'm sure he cares about the, like, everything he's saying, like the, I want to know why. It could have consequences on a national scale if we don't figure this out. But it's also inside of him. He's like, ooh, good, a mystery to unpack, because he's bored.
The knowledge may lay the foundation in preventing a similar phenomenon from occurring again. Don't you agree?
So, like, right there, that's gonna why can't I think of words? We're gonna look at that and go, he's right, even though I don't like the idea of giving them bodies to hack up, but, appeal. It's going to appeal to our sense of judgment over here. Ryan had offered other reasons apart from satisfying his own curiosity. Yeah, when he's like, I'm just bored. Like, you're like, dude, what? And then he's like, but it could save lives. And you're like, As we were being led back to the topic at hand, Mathis must have realized there was no use in further arguing against it. Also, there's no point in arguing because Cyan's going to get what he wants. What Cyan was saying did make sense, but Brother didn't deserve to die like that. He always protected me from my parents who hated me. He was the kindest soul in the whole world. But that monster, it treated him like he was nothing. I recall those heartbreaking words following the loss of his brother. And in a way, Cyan is borderline being Borio here, because, like, Borio ripped to shreds his brother. They cut him up, and he's like, he treated him like he was nothing, just hacked him apart. And that's what Cyan's going to do to these dead bodies. So there's, like, a parallel there. I'd also experienced similar tragedies in the short time I had been alive. The memories of death that could never be undone flooded into my mind. That throbbing pain seemed to be pushing me toward action. Within moments, I came to a decision on how to respond to Cyan. Disagree or be quiet. She's going to disagree. I feel like she should shut her mouth. But to be fair, be quiet and don't say anything is definitely wrong. Like, one, we're going to disagree, and the little spark is going to be like, oh, you were just a normal girl, but I'm kind of into it. You know what I mean? Listen, sometimes the standoffish, bitchy ones like this, the cold ones, they need you to, like, stand up when they're like, stop following me. No! Stalk you forever! They need you to not listen to them and stand up to them. I feel like we're going to disagree. Oh, yeah, disagree. That's wrong. I decided to disagree with what he said. Hey, and besides, I can disagree all I want. Doesn't mean he's not going to get what he wants. What? The room froze over in silence. Oh, I love the way he's looking at us with that cold indifference. But there was something, like, so just like, he's like, you dare to defy me? There is. You really want to go? Yes. Yes, I do. Macy. Hey, what are you? Cyan raised his hand to stop them from speaking. Girl, you dare refute what I've said? For 60 years I've arrived at the most accurate conclusions. And you're telling me I'm wrong. It was the pressure that caused me to speak. The fact that he's like, girl. Oh, you don't even care enough to know my name. I'm okay with it. It's like calling me an idiot. It's on the same scale. Not quite as intense, but I'll take it. I like it. But I couldn't take back what I said now. I needed to continue, even if I had to force myself. I mustered the strength to voice my thoughts. What you're asking is for us to unearth the graves of victims who died a horrible death, taking them away from their families and making them suffer even more. They don't have to know about it. You could do it in secret. Which is why I disagree with you. Isn't there some other method that could be employed? At that, the air around him changed a little. You're a strange one, preaching to me about the sanctity of death. No, not just you. There are only relivers living and working at the Institute, but in front of me now is a group of humans telling me what life is supposed to be. You're making it sound as though I'm the heretic in the room. It's refreshing, to be honest. See? He likes it when we said no. Wait, that could go so wrong later. This reminds me of when I first began my research into reliver technology, but of all people, you're the one trying to honor those who have died. Someone who's built up a mountain of corpses around her. Death herself. It's not surprising he knows her, because the man knows everything. I have known all along who she is, but you didn't bring it up until now. I feel like Cyan knowing everything is like, well, one part of his character, but also because he's basically the de facto ruler. We already said this, but I want to be like, is there more to it than he's just like, yeah, I just got eyes and ears everywhere. It's like, he's like, you're all my, like, you're not even real. This is all just like my science experiment. Like, I want to be like, there's something so much deeper and darker going on with him. Like, you're like, what do you mean? Like, you know what I mean? We're all just your science experiment. I mean, basically, we are in a way. We're all just his lab rats. But I want to be like, it's deeper than just like, technically. I want it to be like, so much more in depth than that, you know?
Her identity had nothing to do with my objective. And that
But the details of her name and appearance shouldn't have made it to this district.
she knows the reasons better than anyone else.
Ryan pulled a single letter out from between a stack of books. I mean, you knew when like we were going here dropping off letters for a certain person, you knew it had to be Cyan. You knew it. Come on. I almost said it earlier when like we came up and we were like, oh, the letters I bring from Mother, and I was like, what do you want to bet it's Cyan? But you had to know. I don't think that's a shock. And so the letters I've been delivering from Mother all this time were for you?
Yes, I've known her since she was still human. I suppose you can call us friends.
Please tell me you didn't sleep with her, because, like, not fair.
We've exchanged information regarding occurrences in Coen and Cernaval. Of course, she hasn't written a word about your existence, but I do recall hearing a rumor that she took in a blonde girl who was thought of by many as deaf. It only took one look from my window when you came to deliver a letter to know you were that girl.
I love the little, like, the snarky bitch look on his face. I love it. It's so, like, it's so devious. Like, I know stuff. I love it.
After all, I could see the miserable look on your face from afar, as though you were the most unfortunate person in the world.
As unflattering as it was, I was impressed by how he was able to describe me so accurately. I always wondered who Mother knew at the Institute, but I never expected that person to be the very person in front of me. So the reason I was allowed in here was
sheer curiosity. Hearing that she'd taken in someone known as Deaf naturally caught my attention, but looking up close, I'm disappointed. You're just an ordinary, quiet, sad-looking girl.
Ow. Oh my god. You know what? You just got hotter. Everyone knew that was coming with the ordinary, quiet, sad-looking girl. Oh! You know, if you insult me like this, could you pin me against a wall while you insult me like this? God. Ryan then changed the subject as if he had lost interest.
I'm a busy man, so I don't want to waste any more of my precious time. I've given you more than enough time to consider it. So will you accept my work order or not? What's your reply, Karun?
His question echoed through the room. Eve looked straight into the eyes of the man who ruled over all of our lives. He took a breath. It could go either way.
Let me see. I've gathered my thoughts about the matter based on our conversations so far.
It could really go either way. Curious. Because this is not like a choice we make where it's going to lead to one end or another. This is the plot of the game. So, like,
I believe what you're saying is correct. Considering that public safety's at risk, I should accept your work order.
Should. Eve? It sounded like he was saying he agreed with digging up the graves. I looked at Cyan, but for some reason he didn't look happy to hear Eve's response. Yeah, because he knows. Adolphe would usually be the first to voice his thoughts about Eve's decision, was also looking on in silence.
Yes, you are correct, so...
His mouth widened into a grin. Feeling like himself again, he smiled at Cyan like a friend would.
All that needs to be done is explain this to the families, and take official measures to retrieve the bodies from their graves. You have the power to do that quite easily. I'm sure the Royal Guard will carry out your order without question.
He's like, yeah, you could totally do this through legit means, so... Why aren't you?
So I have to ask why you insist on hiring us to rob the graves ourselves.
He was right. The process he laid out should have been obvious from the start. We didn't think of it due to the pressure of Cyan's position. Sometimes it doesn't click when I click. I don't know. Hearing Eve's response, Cyan put his hand to his forehead and let out a sigh.
You do not respond to provocations. You're not driven by self-righteousness. You do not seek glory as a hero of the masses. I thought I could control you easily if you were as gullible and soft-hearted as everyone says. You're definitely not the good person I was expecting you to be. If anything, you're clever and thus a nuisance to me. I knew I couldn't trust what others said about.
Suddenly, I'm back! Sorry for taking so long. I brought you some tea and snacks. Our staff shared all sorts of tasty goodies with us. I knew it was worth keeping an eye out for my adorable colleagues. No, I also baked some cookies. I hope they go well with the tea. Dowd wheeled in a cart full of tea and snacks into the room. 2 hours later.
Dowd.
Cyan sounded irritated, perhaps sensing that the tension here had completely vanished. I mean, it really did. God, he's beautiful. The sexy bastard. Maybe Dowd was ignoring it, or perhaps he didn't notice. Dowd was humming happily as he poured tea for everyone. Let me see. Are you the type of girl that likes sweet, spacey? Please enjoy these cookies with your friendly neighbor, Mathis.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now then, Adolphe and Hugo. I think you mean Eve. They put Hugo in there. That's literally what the line says, but that's Eve, not Hugo. I think they typed that wrong. It's hard to guess what kind of sweets boys like, so I had to think really hard. I came to a decision that something popular like chocolates would be perfect. Sorry if I got it wrong. Oh, those'll do.
Adolphe and I both like chocolate, so that works great. Thank you for being so...
They both looked confused as they received their tea and chocolates. Sensing that something wasn't quite right, Mathis and I thought about it too. You know what's interesting? I noticed it because they said something about Cyan's multicolored eyes, right? But when you look at Cyan up close, his pupils are a different color. Like he's got the iris, and then his pupil is not black like everybody else's, and neither is Dowd's. His pupil is also, so I wonder if that's like another sign of being a reliever, is like your pupil, like as if you look, like it's hard to tell, but like can't really see Eve's eyes, but Adolphe's eyes, like his pupils are black. The answer was obvious. Oh, I think you're mistaken. His name isn't Hugo, it's Eve. Okay, so he did say Hugo. Okay, I thought it was a typo, but nope. Huh? See, if you look at his eyes, they're purple, but they got like a blue, like, his pupil is blue. Like his iris is purple and his pupil's blue. Like, interesting. Oh. Suddenly, Cyan's bold posture slumped a bit.
Eve? Did she say Eve just now? You're not Hugo.
Well, that's correct. What are you expecting, Hugo? All the stuff he was saying was about Hugo. And that's funny, I never noticed if Hugo has different colored pupils. And come to think of it, ever since Dowd came for you, he's only called you Karoon.
And we dove right into the subject, so we didn't have a chance to introduce ourselves.
Wait, so they had your name mistaken from the very beginning?
Huh?
It seemed like that was the case from Cyan's scarily calm expression directed toward Dowd.
Dowd, you reported to me that the leader of Karoon was Hugo. You do remember this, don't you?
Oh, yes, I think. Huh, was I wrong? I heard they had a rich person from Cheetahs there, so I thought he was the owner.
Ah, I see now. I'm not surprised you were mistaken, since we haven't worked in this district before. Hugo's my work partner at Karoon, but, well, I'm the owner. You remember just before we got in the car, the person who left was Hugo.
Dowd Daoud gave a start when Cyan pinched his brows and let out a deep sigh.
A 40-year pay cut for you.
Hey, your evaluation of me is so unfair. I just made one tiny mistake, you know?
That tiny mistake is more significant than you could comprehend, but you wouldn't understand. If everyone had introduced themselves, I could have found out much sooner.
Cyan clicked his tongue in frustration, saying that things were different now. The thing is, Cyan's so funny. Like, this is kind of also why I love him. You're blaming Daoud for this. But it's like, you could have been like, oh, why don't we introduce ourselves? You could have asked everyone who they were. You just call them Kor and Karun. You know what I mean? Like, you could have been like, you're from the Kor, right? And you are Hugo, was it? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you could have done this. You could have taken that charge, you genius. You're fucking like 80, bro. I feel like the atmosphere in here changed as soon as they heard your name.
Yeah, so may I ask why? I mean, I'm not upset over my name being mistaken or anything.
Eve asked Cyan in an uneasy tone, but he didn't get a clear reply.
Eve, and that mask. I see, so you're...
Cyan's eyes narrowed. He stared at Eve's face for a moment as if recollecting the past.
I take back what I said. I don't want the bodies anymore. I won't force anything. You can just leave.
And with that, the negotiation ended. This is interesting. Why did you flip so hard?
Huh?
Huh? What just happened? Eve was surprised at the sudden turn of events.
How can I say this? I always repay what's due, and...
Cyan loosened up a bit, using his thumb to gesture to some food left on a desk.
I usually just eat bread.
Huh?
You're losing me.
Losing all of us. Cyan is a nutter butter. Like, but anyway, I'm gonna stop here because we're a little over time. But God, I love him. Like, I love our God. I will worship at whatever temple I need to. I will worship at his feet. I will kneel for him. That sounds really inappropriate, but I'll do it because I love him so fucking much. You know, I like Eve and Adolphe too. They're up there. Lucas is beautiful, and if he's a little bit of a psycho, okay, I'm into it. Anko's pretty, like, intriguing. Mathis, I'd have to say, is my least favorite, but only, again, because he has baby face. But, like, as a character, he's good so far. I like all of our characters so far, but I think Cyan's my favorite. He's just that, he's like, yeah, you're just a basic, boring, sad girl. Oh! Oh! Could you turn me on any harder, sir? Put glasses on, that's about it. Anyway, I will see you guys next time. Remember to give the video a big thumbs up and subscribe to see more.